Thanks so much for joining us here today. Here I am with the one and only Carlos, who is a law firm senior partner who has braved so many challenges to get to where he is today. And if you are a law firm owner or a partner who's watching this today, you're going to be learning some real industry insights from somebody who actually walks the talk. Carlos, it's brilliant to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan. I'm excited to be here, excited to talk with you.
Great. So could you let the viewer know, what is it that you do in your firm?
Our firm is a corporate transactional boutique, meaning that we focus really on all aspects of corporate legal work for startup companies, venture capital firms, and private equity firms. We do work with companies on a general counsel basis, helping with formation, strategy, growth, teams, everything that a company needs to live on a day-to-day basis and grow. And then we also focus very significantly on all of the significant events in a company life cycle, such as raising equity or debt financing and selling companies, mergers and acquisitions, which is a huge part of what I do and what I've focused on for a long time.
Okay, nice, really good. So before you even knew about me, what was your day-to-day like in your firm as a senior partner? What were you dealing with?
I did everything. I worked a lot. You know what? This firm, I founded the firm 6 years ago, and we've grown incrementally over the last 6 years. And I think by the time that I met you, there were, I want to say 8 or 9 of us.
Okay.
And I worked all the time, 7 days a week. And I was doing all of the things necessary to run a business and grow a business, and help to grow and foster other attorneys who are in the firm, while also doing business development, while also doing a lot of fee earning work, of working directly with clients, of billing. And I was working probably about 100 hours a week doing that.
Wow. I know, I remember that. And I remember you saying to me, Dan, the truth is, I just don't have any joy in my work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it got to the point, I think that one of the reasons that we ended up working together, and we'll get into that too, is just, I couldn't breathe. There was never a moment to breathe, to take a breath, to appreciate what I had grown, to appreciate the business. And instead it was this constant scrabbling of, have to work harder, have to work more, trying to catch up and trying to keep everything under control. So there was no path toward enjoyment of what we were doing. It was literal survival.
Yeah, right. And so did you know you had like a problem? Did you know there was that sort of imbalance for you?
I think I obviously knew I was working way too much, and I knew that it wasn't sustainable, right? And I think that was, this all tied in very much with the economy at that point was doing very well. And mergers and acquisitions were extremely busy, and we have just been very lucky and successful with our business development, and we have fantastic clients who have a lot of work. And I think that I knew that I needed to figure out some solution, but I wasn't sure what that solution was. I had no idea what it would even look like.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So you hadn't even found anyone or managed to research or find any kind of solution for what you're dealing with?
I wasn't even looking for anything.
Right. Okay, got it.
I had no time to look for anything. Right?
Yeah, got it.
I was just struggling moment to moment of trying to keep our heads above the water. I mean, and if we were being very successful, it was going very well. But personally, it was a lot of struggle.
Yeah. So you personally had, pretty satisfying take home, but you were selling your life to get it, right? Because you were doing most of the fee earning.
I was doing a huge chunk of it.
Or a huge chunk of it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And so the other thing I remember was you were receiving many text messages, like over 200. You were receiving over 250 text messages a week. Is that right?
A day.
Over 250 text messages a day.
A day from my clients, from my staff, more importantly, from the people that I was working with, asking me questions. And it was a constant barrage of questions from everybody coming through on text. And you know how I feel about text.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how did you find out about me?
So can I name names? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
All right. So Yvonne Ribeiro,
Okay.
who is another client of yours, is someone who I work with. We're both consultants in a consortium of consultants that has brought together experts in different fields. And I'm
Right.
the legal consultant in this consortium, and Yvonne is kind of the marketing consultant. And Yvonne is wonderful. And we would have these monthly check-in calls, and every month I would come in, hair on fire, saying, okay, what do we need to do? Let's work through this. We've got to go. I have 7 calls and I got to go. And finally, everyone, and I would say, I need to hire people. This was what I was, I need to hire people. I need to hire people. And everyone said, you need to hire people. And then Yvonne sent me a message and said, there's someone you need to meet. And that was you. And she introduced us, I think via email, and then you sent me a link, like a message via LinkedIn, to connect. And you were very nice and sent a few of them because I was harried and missed Yvonne's message, and I get a lot of LinkedIn messages as well. And finally was able to connect with you that way.
Great. And so when we then had those initial phone calls, video calls like this,
Yep.
What was it that made you think, yeah, I'm going to invest with working with Dan to solve this?
I think that what I really appreciated about talking to you in those initial calls was that, what you weren't doing was looking to really sell me. It didn't feel like you were trying to sell me something, like sell a product, right? And it was my partner, Jenna, who you work with a lot too. We would talk about it after both of us talked to, we've said, oh, there's like business therapy, right? This is someone who you can talk to and they can give you good perspective. And you were very good at sort of being separate and outside of our business, and able to kind of look at things and help us digest them without trying to propose the solutions, but really helping us to digest sort of where we needed to go with things. And we really like that. I think that a lot of times we get a lot of inquiries into people who are trying to sell us, the next best product or the next best thing or most efficient tool, right? And that really isn't what we needed, because we knew that we needed to change something in the way we were running our business and the way we were thinking about our business. And that was what you and we talked about at the beginning was, how are you even thinking about this, and how are you communicating about this? And that just resonated really well with both of us.
Yeah, great. And so I'm getting that you actually found those initial calls useful and gave you things to start implementing straight away. Yeah,
absolutely. Yes. I think it was, one of the first things you did was you created, even on those initial calls before we were really working together, goals lists. And you didn't do what I have always seen, which is, where do you want to be in a year? It's like, what are you doing in the next day? What are you doing in the next day, in the next week, in the next 3 months, in the next year, right? And the next
back to front, of course, starting off 3 years from today, you're living your dream lifestyle. What does it look like? So what needs to happen in the next year for that to happen? What needs to happen in the next 90 days? What needs to happen in the next week to be on track for that? And then this week's most important actions.
And that to us, that it was sort of the breaking down into bite-sized achievable things, right?
Yeah, got it.
Okay, I know where I want to be in 3 years, but I have no way of knowing how to get there. I can't reasonably think about it and saying, okay, so if you want to get there, we have to increment in order to get there. And so what do you need to do in the next week to move you toward that?
Yeah. Right? I remember it was basically, how do you just get to work a lot less whilst greatly improving your personal take-home profits and the firm's take-home profits, right? That was it.
Well, and frankly, the moment I knew that I was going to work with you too was you said, okay, I think one of the things you need to do this week, we talked about the text messages, and you said, you need to tell everyone to stop texting you. And I did, right? And I did, and it cut from 250 text messages to something like 6 text messages a day, right?
From 250 down to 6 text messages a day.
And I was like, yes, this is the kind of help I need, right? I need someone who can help me say, you're tired of this, change it. Right? This is how you can think about it.
And so then we began working together. And I remember that was one of the first things we did was for you to set and communicate boundaries about how you choose to be communicated with.
Right.
And that resulted in going from that many texts down to 6.
Right.
And then what were some of the other things that we worked on that you feel made such a difference to your quality of lifestyle and to the profits of your business?
I think that some of the things that we worked on were just the efficiency of communication, right? And this is something you and I talk about a lot, is just efficiency. And how do you cut out? I always have made the mistake, and I've tried to be the kind of leader who leads by example, which I still do. But that in many ways meant prostrating myself for the benefit of others, right? Oh, you're too busy, I'll do it. So then I would think that that was showing someone that if I was too busy, maybe they would do something, right? But really all it meant was that I did everything. And one of the main things that you really helped me develop was sort of the no fluff communication, right? How do I make straight requests of people? How do I not try to soften them to seem nicer? How do I not give harsh feedback because I'm trying not to hurt someone's feelings? And it was really getting this idea of setting up regular communication with my team, which was important.
Okay. So setting up, so that was
right, like
weekly,
scheduling our meetings. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, like weekly calls with your key members. And then what were you doing in those weekly calls that you weren't doing before?
Those weekly calls were very are and continue to be very work oriented and focused in terms of, okay, here is this project, where does it stand, what does it need to be do, what blockers do you have, great, move forward on it. Okay, here's this deadline, is this something you can achieve? No, what can you achieve? Okay, great, move forward on it, right? And it became this ability to have these communications that were very direct and clear, so that I knew what someone was doing, they knew what was expected of them, and that created just a lot smoother and easier path forward in terms of having my team execute on work that usually, if they were dropping the ball, I would just pick up and do, or if they did poorly, I would just fix and send on and say, okay, well, I fixed it, you should look at the red line and maybe learn for next time. And now it was a lot more direct feedback of, this is what didn't work, this is why it didn't work, what question do you have, now move forward. And that really was the point. And starting those communications was the point in which some of the feedback I would get from my team was, wow, I really love that I know where I stand, right? I appreciate that feedback. I appreciate the very straightforward, no nonsense feedback on this. I know what I need to do. And something I didn't realize was that people were hurt, right? If I was doing things that they were supposed to do, and they didn't understand why I was doing them, or they didn't understand. And so people were interpreting things like I didn't trust them, or I didn't want them to do things, when I really felt that I really did want them to do things. And so that was important because it opened up a line of communication going both ways within the firm, which means more efficiency in everyone's ability to work.
Yeah, great. And so previously you were doing a lot of the fee earning work yourself. How's that changed?
Yeah, so in terms of fee earning, I have cut back significantly in the amount of fee earning that I do. What it has allowed me to do is, I was doing fee earning from the very top, very heavy strategic, kind of hard business oriented legal work with clients, all the way down through, I'm sending out the signature pages for everyone to sign, and I'm doing all of these more basic things, because I would have this sense of the time and I had to do it, and all of this. And now I've been able to cut back so that I've cut off all of those sort of lower level tasks. And by that, I don't mean, they still require skill and they still require, attention to detail, but they aren't the high level strategic things that really is what clients want to pay me to do, is to work with them on that stuff. And so I've gone from billing, 160 or more hours a month to 100 hours a month, 120 hours a month, 80 hours a month sometimes, which has just improved my own life quality, as well as really my ability to respond to clients and to help them and to dive into these sort of heavy strategic things that they want help with.
So how has it made a difference to your lifestyle? Because how many hours do you now roughly work in a week now?
Yeah, probably about 50 a week
So,
now.
so 50% less.
50% less. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that that's about right. And I think that to me, it was really important. I have a great family that I love very much. And one of my sons is a senior in high school and is going off to college next year. And I didn't want to miss this year.
Yeah, got it.
And I felt like if I didn't change something, I was going to miss this year.
Yeah.
And I have another one who's younger in high school, and I have one who's already in college. And, just being able to spend time with my kids more, being able to spend time with my wife, doing things that I love, that I live in a beautiful place and I like to do outdoor things, and being able to do that and actually scheduling those things into my life. Right.
Yeah, such as skiing, right?
Such as skiing or biking, right? Those
Because we
are
end our sessions and you're on your ski gear and you're straight out
exactly.
skiing in the winter time, and then in the
Yeah.
summer now you're able. One of the things you wanted to do a lot was more mountain biking. Now you get to do that regularly as well, right?
Right. And it's. I mean, I think that was sort of the key of, if I'm working to build this firm and I'm working to do this, and I want to, I do not work. I don't live to work. I work to live, right?
Yeah.
And that has really been part of our firm culture and what we've done. And the problem that I had before was that I was more working, less living. And now I'm able to most of the time find that balance, right? And be able to do that.
I've got a feeling that the viewer watching this is thinking, yeah, but if you're working less, surely you must be earning less. Can you say anything about the difference in finances?
Yeah. What I thought as well, and what I pushed against Dan for a long time but I'm the highest billing person in our firm, and I bill at the highest rate, and I bill the most hours, and we're going to lose money. And one of the things that you helped us work through was we needed to grow our team, right? It's not efficient to have one person doing the work of three people. Particularly in a business where you get paid for the time spent, because one person only has a limited number of hours, right? And so if you grow the firm and you add three people and you give the work of the one person who's very efficient, me, to three people who are possibly less efficient, still efficient, but not quite as efficient, then, we can also get more work done. So I have more time to bring in more work, feed it to more people. They can bill more hours. I review their work, which cuts down on my hours. I work with those clients, and our profits have gone up. And that's something that you and I have discussed a lot, right? The difference between the first 6 months of working with you and the same period of the prior year. I mean, we went from, we earned double, right, of what we did in the prior year.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we just looked at, our financials for the year aren't finalized, but our overall expenditure of money on expenses went significantly up, right? We spend $750,000 more on payroll and things like that because we grew the team hugely.
Yeah.
And our fear was, wow, we're going to spend that money and see our profits go down because we're spending more money.
Yeah.
Our profits actually grew, right? By 34 or 40% year over year, even with that increase in expenditure. So not only did we spend that, we made the money to cover the expenditure, plus we made extra money on top of that.
And recently we looked at the last 6 months of last year versus the last 6 months of this year, which is the 6 months you've worked with me. Right. And we saw that your firm had generated an extra profit of how much was it?
It was $700,000 extra profit.
Yeah, just over 700,000. And of course, that's not taken into account that already the commissions for you, for business development and Jenna's, everybody's already been taken. So
yeah, so I mean that, that's true profit, right, is what we're looking at there. And so I think that that's sort of the key thing is it wasn't as though, we like that includes my salary is not included in that profit number. That's in the expenses number.
Yeah.
So this is on top of that, right? And so that is something that's really wonderful and has given us so much comfort in terms of, wow, this is the path that we should continue to pursue, right? Nice. This growth path and this path of, I don't have to do it all myself, but I can build a team that I can rely and trust on and who can take the work and do the work. And I can sort of oversee that and work with clients And it's not, something that you and I have talked a lot about and is important to both me and Jenna is that we aren't doing bait and switch with clients. We don't pitch ourselves and then pass them off to a team, right? We do want to be involved with the client. We do want to be involved with the work, but that doesn't mean you have to do every single thing, right?
So
and that was the disconnect, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So what advice would you give to another law firm partner or owner watching this? How do you handle that? How do you be the face of your business, but then have the team do the work?
I think that it's a hard line, and I've seen some people be very successful at it and some people fail, because there is this sense that just because someone else is doing the work, well, now my hands are done. And it's absolutely not how I approach it. It's not absolutely not how Jenna approaches it, because we think that you still have to, at the end of the day, as a law firm partner, the buck still stops with you. The client still looks to you. So you need to know what's going on. You need to have a team that is keeping you in the loop and is, asking you questions, and that you can actually, part of what we do is with these regular meetings that you very smartly had us set up with our team, is we check in on every client and on everything that someone is working on twice a week. So there aren't surprises, right? Yeah. And so when a client calls me and says, "Oh, I'm confused, what's this?" I know what the client is talking about because I've had a check-in with my team about it. And I think that a large part of that is trust building, right? Is how do you, I think that if you were looking at this and you were a single, a sole practitioner, and you don't have a team, that's really hard to picture, because now you have to find someone. How do you find someone? And for us, we've used recruiters, had some success with that. We've used a lot of personal connections, have had incredible success with that to build our team. In the last year, we went from 8 when we started working with you to 14 full-time people.
Right? So in 6 months, you took on an extra.
We took on a huge group.
How many more is that taken on?
That's 6 people that we added.
It's 6 people. Yeah.
And it's not just fee earners, right? It was, okay, you need to, one of the major problems we had was collections, because I didn't have time.
That was one of the things you wanted to have a breakthrough in, because your firm was constantly owed so much for so long.
Right. And so we hired someone who focused just on collections, right?
And am I sensing that because you were then working less and you had more time, you were then able to allocate that time for specific training to solve specific breakdowns you had in your firm? One of them being training the collections team to collect effectively, so that you had a breakthrough in that.
And I think that it's finally being able to work with someone else to develop systems to not continue to have breakdowns, right? I think that was sort of one of the key things, is we had to develop our own systems for ourselves in our own practice to then be able to develop firm-wide systems. And I did not have time to develop firm-wide systems, right? Sometimes I still feel like I don't have time, but that's the nature of being a law firm partner. And I do understand that even working 50 hours a week is more than most people work at their jobs, but going from 100 to 50 feels really nice, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're now halfway through this program, 6 months in. You've got another 6 months to go. What are you looking forward to us working on, and what do you think is going to become possible for you going forward?
I think that continuing, we talked about this yesterday, Kaizen, right? Is the constant and never-ending improvement. Yes. And I think it's, as I've told you, is a lot of the things that I have taken in the last 6 months, and I have learned and had personal sort of breakthroughs on my communication, on recognizing where I have weakness and how I can work on that. I want to start implementing that with my team more. And what I look forward to working with you is understanding, frankly, how to train my team in much of the ways that you've trained me. Because I think that efficiency that I try and strive for every single day, I want my team to try and strive for in their own jobs, because I think that it's really important to recognize that your team, as you grow and build them, they're not just drudgery workers, right? I mean, these are people who are trying to build careers. These are potential partners down the line. These are people who are hoping to do what I do, And so I want to mentor them and I want to help them do that and grow into the lawyers, into the business people that they want to do. And the way for me to do that is to help them start to implement the things that I've been trying to implement. Because frankly, if we're all shooting on all of those cylinders, like imagine what we could do, right?
Yeah.
Over
I mean, we can see the next 6 months that you're going to be able to further delegate your work away that you're currently doing, reduce the hours that you're, fee earning yourself more, be focusing more on business development, and probably, hire another one, maybe even two fee earners.
Right.
What would that make possible for your business and lifestyle?
I mean, I think that all of those things are correct. And I think that I want to continue, when you say, I always have discomfort with this, as you know, when you say like, cut back on your fee earning work, like you don't want to do fee earning work. And what I want to do is really important fee earning work, right? I want to do really value additive fee earning work to the clients because they pay a lot per hour for me to do that work.
Yeah.
Right. And so I want to make sure that I'm focusing on that highest and best use of fee earning time, and I'm not wasting fee earning time.
Yeah, got it.
And that's because that's not useful to anyone. That takes up my time, and my time is a non-renewable resource for me, right? I'll never get that time back. And so why waste it? But hold on, I am going to answer your question.
Go on.
I think that if we add more people, what that will do is it will allow that further refinement of the kind of fee earning work that I do, the further ability to go out and get more business development, which will bring in more work, which will grow the work that our team has to do, which is just going to continue to grow our profit, right? Our revenue and our profit.
Yeah, nice. But what about the hours that you work? Can you see us getting you down to 40 hours a week?
That would be wonderful. That's one of our 3-year goals, as you know.
It is, but we're going to do it in the next 6 months. I'm telling you.
That would be that would be great. I mean, I feel like we have work to do in terms of we're still always refining the team and still always figuring out where those holes are. And and a little bit of the analogy of the sinking boat, right? Of you plug one hole and another one pops up, right? Because problems cover other problems, or inefficiencies cover other inefficiencies. And so as soon as you solve one inefficiency, then the three that it was hiding, you realize all of a sudden sort of what we're leading to it. And so part of what I'm really interested in is trying to continue to do that, because I do want to get my work down to what I would call normal people levels. And I would like to spend even more time with my family and, even more time doing the things I love while not feeling like I'm neglecting my work. And I think that that's maybe the biggest thing.
And while enjoying ever greater financial success.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that it was always a trade-off. I could spend more time with my family, which meant that I would spend less time doing work, earn less money, be less successful on the work side. Or I could spend more time trying to grow the business, grow the work, grow all of that stuff, but I would have to ignore my family, ignore those things I like to do in my life. And I think that's something that we've been working toward and I've seen is, it doesn't have to be a trade-off.
Nice.
Right? If you have the right processes, if you have the right team, if you have the right no fluff communication, you can actually spend more time doing the things you love while successfully building your business and not killing yourself and growing your profit and, not feeling as though one suffers because of the other, but have mutual success.
Nice. I am sure the viewer watching this is left really inspired by what you've just said now, because I'm left inspired. All the hairs on my arm are all standing on end. It's like, oh my God, this is really possible,
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I know it is. I do this day in, day out with many law firm owners, but I'm just almost living into the hearing of the person watching this now and seeing their eyes light up. It's so inspiring.
Yeah. And I think it's frankly, for someone who's watching this, I think it's hard to picture, well, there's something about that person, right? There's something about Carlos that allowed him to do that. And it's just not true, right? There's no magic or there's nothing special about me. I mean, thank you, Mom. There's lots of things that are special. But like, there's nothing special about me that allows me to be able to focus on my family life and build a successful business without sacrificing one for the other. It's that there are tools, particularly as lawyers, that we're never taught, right? Efficiency is not a lawyer tool. Frankly, efficiency is something that is not rewarded when you're working in a big law firm necessarily, because
and when you speak about efficiency, what you mean is efficiency in communication to elevate team performance so that you get the firm running smooth without you having to do everything.
I also just mean in general efficiency, I think, of developing systems in which work can be done more quickly, whether it's by more team members, or typically by more team members, you can do work more efficiently. And it might be lower fee earning on an hourly basis team members than if I did that work. But, if we can spread work among many team members overall, like the pie just becomes bigger. Right? Yeah. And I think that that's sort of what I keep coming back to is if I bill at X and someone else bills at 1/2 of X and someone else bills at 1/2 of X and someone else bills at 1/2 of X, but I'm the only one doing the work, I'm missing out on 1.5 X, right? I have 3 other people who could be doing all of this work and I'm missing out on that. And by the way, if I'm doing some billing and they're doing a lot more billing because I'm focused, then I'm able to focus on business and team growing and client growing and all of those things. Then, I'm really making sacrifices. I was making sacrifices when I thought I was growing the business. I was actually like hurting the business.
Yeah, interesting.
Right. And that's a perspective that it took a while to realize, of like all of these things that I thought were the necessary thing to grow the business further were things that were holding the business back.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, interesting. No, I can see absolutely life-changing. So who would you say my programs are suitable for?
Well, you and I talked about this recently, because I think your programs work for anyone, frankly, any law firm lawyer. And, I think that a lot of people probably think that it's, very small firm, small practitioner. I'm sure that works well, right, for someone who's a 1-person firm or a 2-person firm, because assuming someone is able to get over wanting to be king, right? And it's something I tell my clients: do you want to be king or do you want to be rich? And they're not. Those are often mutually exclusive things, right? And if you can give up your ego, you can succeed in ways that you never thought you could succeed, right? Yeah. And so I think that works well for very small law firms, or even mine, which is middling, I would say, size, right? And but I also recently told you I think this would work well for partners at big law firms, because they're trying to figure out, how do I find my niche within a larger law firm? How do I manage a team? How am I building my business? I mean, any lawyer that is at that point of, I want to build client work, I don't want to kill myself while doing client work, I want to have a team that can support me, anyone could benefit from this.
Yeah, got it. Yeah,
I think that's sort of a key piece.
So if somebody's listening to this and they're a law firm partner or owner, and they're thinking about having a conversation with me, what would you say to them?
I would say, take a moment to look at what your biggest pressure or suffer points are, and think about what seems absolutely intractable to you. What are the things that you say, this is there, but it's unchangeable. There's nothing I can ever do about it, right? Because those are the things that then, when I had a conversation with you, I would say, I would encourage them to bring that up to you and say, here's my biggest pressure point, or here's my biggest friction point. But there's no way it can ever change, because something that I know about you is that you are very thoughtful and creative about, okay, let's break that down. Why do you think it could never change? What is it about it that could never change? What are the aspects of it? Like, how can we start to take nibbles at it and turn it into something that is changeable, that becomes something else? And I think that, I came to you thinking, he's going to help me figure out how to hire more people, right? Because that is my problem. My problem is I don't have, enough people. And we started talking about it, and it wasn't that I didn't have enough people, it was that I was spending too much of my own time, and I wasn't even looking for the right people, right? I wasn't looking for the right team. I was looking for some solution that really needed to start with me. And that was something that I didn't expect.
Yeah, because I remember one of the things we looked at was the difference between employing somebody because we like them versus employing someone to fulfill an exact position to do an exact certain thing within the firm. And so you move from hiring people that you like to hiring people that you not only like, but that also you could see fitted well in the team.
Right. And I think that that's been, we've done some hard work too, right? This hasn't all been easy work. We've done really hard things. You've pushed me to do things that I have felt very uncomfortable with, in terms of examining myself, having communications, hard talks with team members. And, I think that, as you know, today I'm having a hard talk with a team member, and it's someone that we hired because we liked them. And finally have realized, like, that's not quite how this works. And I don't think, what's amazing to me is that we have been able to continue to build our culture while hiring really effective team members, and maintain that culture. And we were so focused only on culture and not effectiveness that we were driving ineffectiveness. And then the only thing that was driving culture was me and my partner, again, killing ourselves.
Nice. I can just hear the realizations you've gained. It's really great. So to conclude this interview conversation, what would you say to somebody watching this who is a lawyer, law firm partner, who's burnt out and exhausted and just doesn't know what to do next?
You don't have to necessarily give up. And I think I had reached a point where I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I thought, oh, okay, I can just stop. I'll do something else because I'm tired of it. And this is hard. And it's been hard for 20 years, and it's not something I enjoy, and I'm never going to enjoy it. And I think that the answer is, again, we as lawyers are trained to look at other people's problems and find sort of real life practical solution for those problems. And we often forget to look at our own. And the best way, the reason people hire lawyers is we have certain knowledge and we have ability to take a problem dispassionately, look at it, and try to figure out a solution. And that's what you do, right? And that's where you are very helpful. And I think that having someone to come and look and help you think through and work through those problems helps to identify those places of, oh, this isn't going to be a never-ending grind that I will never get out of. Like, there are ways to do this well and enjoyably and successfully, without feeling as though it's a hopeless pit of despair, which I know a lot of lawyers feel that way. I mean, lawyer jokes are there for a reason, and lawyer stereotypes are there for a reason, because a lot of lawyers actually feel that way, but you don't have to. So that's what I would say is we're also notoriously bad at asking for help. And that's sort of that self-help book, take that first step, actually have the conversation, because Dan can't find you. You need to find someone like Dan. But have the conversation, because there's also no risk. Right? Like, worst case scenario, you end up exactly where you are today, because you don't want to hear it, or you don't want to do the work. And you do have to do the work, right? You don't do my work for me. You don't have my—
It's true. I don't do the work for you. Yeah, that's the point.
And I think that that's key.
But the other thing is I think many business owners, law firm owners think it'd be nice to have somebody else to do the work. But if somebody else does the work, we never get to grow. We never get to learn. We never get to master all those leadership skills. And the only way of mastering those leadership skills is to face what's stopping us, own our greatness, and take those actions that matter, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that we are so, I sort of had reached a point in my career where I thought, okay, I've kind of learned what I'm going to learn, and now I'm just going to do what I do, right? I've probably grown more in the past 6 months personally and work-wise, just because of the work you have made me do. Not you've made me do, but you know what I mean? Because of the work we've done together. How's that?
Yeah.
And I think that also drives enjoyment, right? That drives pleasure out of what you do. And I think that that's sort of a key piece. And to know that I still have a lot to grow and to learn, even if it's just about myself, is wonderful, right?
Yeah,
Because
great. I
then
mean,
gives you more enthusiasm.
as you speak now, something that's really evident that wasn't there before is joy. You now have joy in what you do. You're excited about your days. You're excited about your work, the freedom it gives you with your lifestyle, skiing, family, all these other things. And to be looking at this clearly ever greater future, you know, you can see it in you. You have joy in your life now. It's so fantastic.
Well, it's one of those things that when you're a lawyer, a client is both good and bad, right? And being able to find joy in your clients is really important. And the only way you can find joy in your clients is to find time in your life. And the only way you can find time in your life is to drive efficiency in the way you're doing things. Yeah. And the only way you can find efficiency in the way you're doing things is to really examine what you're doing and figure out where all that fluff is and how to cut it out. Yeah. And that's, to me, sort of what your superpower, right?
Thank you.
Of working with you is to be able to, I mean, we've had many conversations where I say this and you say, really? Like, is that it? Maybe are you pointing at the right thing here? And I think that that's important, is having someone, a truth speaker to you, who helps you to identify those things, because I do enjoy my clients, and I do think that that's where there will be sustainable joy in this for the rest of my career, is being able to build those relationships, because that's what I like the most at the end of the day.
Yeah, great. Fantastic. Last question. If somebody's on the fence about investing into one of my programs, what would you say to them?
Do it. I think that what we've seen in returns on it is incredible. You know, and it's not just monetary returns, right? And I think that that's important. And I think that, you know, our monetary returns have been insane. And what we have made in extra profit as compared to what we spent on you is not incomparable.
Whilst going from working 100 hours to 50 a week as well.
I was going to say, but the most important part to me is every other aspect of this, right?
Yeah, nice.
This has been worth every penny, in terms of spending time with my wife, right? Spending time with my kids, spending time, not like actually having evenings. It's lovely, right? It's just lovely.
Yeah, amazing.
And that's worth sort of a whole lot more than we ever have invested with you. So it's worth it. And I think that it's scary because lawyers are particularly skinflinty and don't like to spend a lot of money. But it's real investment, and it's making an investment, and you become part of the team. And so I think of it as, again, it's not a product that you're buying. It's an investment that you're making and bringing someone to look in and help you grow. Yeah,
great. Carlos, it's been such an honor to me to be able to work with you, to spend this time with you, and to see you just take on, you know, the work that we carry out, implement it, and gain such rewards. You've earned it, every single penny, to the bank. And I can't wait to share these next 6 months with you and share ever greater success. Carlos, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Dan. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.